Hello, hi everyone. Am I audible? You can tell me if I'm audible or not on the YouTube live chat feature. Today we are here. Is everyone with me? Yeah. So today we are here to discuss strategy for the upcoming IELT exam. So I believe that we can just dive right into it. What I'm going to do is I'm going to share my screen and I am going to share a slideshow with you. And then we're also going to discuss some other points which I have noted down myself and which I learned from my experience. Right. So here goes. I hope this is a helpful session for you. And yeah, any questions are welcome. So the format is going to be this for the first 30 minutes to an hour, depending on how long we take. I just discuss a few tactics and strategies and a few things which you can do to increase your marks at the last minute. And then for the next 30, 40 minutes, we can have questions as many as you want. So yeah, let's begin. Good afternoon, guys. Good afternoon. Yeah. So here goes. Right. Can everybody see the slide? Can everybody see the slideshow? Yeah. Right. Fantastic. Okay. Great. So positives and negatives. One positive that if you enter the college, you'll be one of the elite few people because I believe there are only 80 people ka seat. And what I can vouch for about the college is that the college is a lot of fun. And I mean, there is a lot to learn also, but you learn it in a fun way. So yeah, I think it is worth it. थोड़ी अगर पढ़ाई मेहनत करनी पड़ी हो तुम्हें और अगर तुम निकल जाओ तो बहुत it will be worth every minute. So 20,000 people also appearing, challenging odds. The good part is there are a lot of people who are also appearing for CLAT and SIMBI, etc., etc. So don't count out your chances. One interesting thing about IELET is that it is a generally, can't say for this year, each year could be different, but generally the trend that we've seen and that you all know is that IELET is generally low scoring. So low scoring may, if you focus correct for 1.5 hours and, you attempt the right amount of questions, get your accuracy high, then you can actually make it through. While in other exams where you get 150, may say 120 or 125, it's much more difficult to score. So you can be smart in IELT, attempt lesser questions, save your time, and yet get through. So that is an interesting thing. Now, so keep that in your mind. We are going to discuss those points as we move forward. So this is the trend that we have seen. IELT is very clear. 35 marks ke 4 sections and maths for 10 marks. So the immediate thing that comes to mind when you see this is that the paper is testing you on 3 things, right? And this is what we tell students. The first thing it is testing you on is comprehension. So comprehension doesn't come on all, so English comprehension section mein nahi aata, right? Comprehension comes in legal aptitude, right? It may also come in critical reasoning, logical reasoning, if there are some critical reasoning type of questions. So comprehension is a critical part. So there is comprehension, there is concept, and there is concentration. These are the 3 things that you're tested on. So comprehension kya hota hai? Comprehension is that can you comprehend what I am asking you? So the first thing, let's say you have a question on tort law or you have a question on contract law. Right? So you often see that there might be 4 or 5 principles, and then there'll be a long passage, and then there'll be long options. Right? Now, the first thing in to do a question like this, or even in an English comprehension, is to first understand what the principles are and what they imply, right, in the legal question, and then how they mix into the facts. So first, you have to understand that. After that, you go into the question, and the question might be asking you something conceptual, such as, is there a contract or not, or was this an invitation to offer? Right? Now you have to apply. Now that you've understood what the question says, you apply your understanding the concept, what you've understood about contracts, for example, right? And then the final part. So there are 2 C's. There is comprehension and there is concept. So concept, a lot of us understand. हम लोगों ने अच्छे से पढ़ लिया, concept समझ आ गया. Comprehension depend करता है. अगर आपको बहुत time लग रहा है पढ़ने में, etc. आपको 3 बार पढ़ना पड़ रहा है. So comprehension might be a little weak. And then finally, you have concentration. So comprehension, concepts, and concentration. Now, what is concentration? Concentration is your ability to actually give the 90-minute paper with the same amount of brain power. if you notice ऐसा ये बहुत बच्चों के साथ होता है, like they'll start with question number 1 in LA and question number 1 to 10 में they will get 10 में से 8, questions on contract, tort, very nice. But in the final 35 to 25 to 35 similar questions, right, on contract and tort and constitutional law, kids will get out of 10 they will get 2 or they will get 3. Now that is because as you go in deeper and deeper into the paper, your concentration starts flagging. So there is one thing that we always suggest, it is to give papers. The more papers you give, right, the better your concentration becomes. So think of it like, running a marathon, right? You can't just one day up and run a marathon. So there are still a few days left. If you've given papers, if you've given all the mock tests, etc., you're in a good place. At least you've done this 7, 8, 10 times, right? Now this is the time. How you will analyze your mocks, we'll go forward and see. But the overall view that I want to leave you when you leave, that I want you to leave with when you see these 5 sections, is that they are testing comprehension, concept, and concentration. Now you might think GK doesn't do something like that, but GK does too. GK has tested your concentration for the entire year. Have you been able to read the papers, etc., etc. So we'll discuss how to tackle these different sections. Yeah, these were the cutoffs that I was speaking about. So luckily for all of us, the cutoffs are quite, reasonable, around 50%. So what am I asking you to do? तुम सब 90% वाले बच्चे हो, right? So what I'm asking you to do is that you get 50%. I mean, I think that is eminently doable, right? So yeah. Now, how we go about it is that there are various ways to do it. So once you think of it this way, we've pointed it out over here. If let's say you have 100 attempts, right? So you leave 50, like 33% of the paper. All right, you don't touch 1/3 of the paper, and you give only 100, but your accuracy is 85%. Then in that case, your score would be 80, more than enough to beat these cutoffs. Same if you give 5 lesser questions, but your accuracy is high, then you will still get 77. You would still beat the cutoffs. Like in 2018 and 2019 cutoffs, so 72 ke paas hai. That 2020 mein slightly बढ़ गए. So the strategy should be, if there are 150 questions out there, you don't have to do the first 100 questions. You have to do the 100 questions that you know well. A lot of people get into this trouble that they will try and finish the paper. Of course, finishing the paper, if you can, there is nothing like it. Somebody who finishes a paper is much more likely to crack it than somebody who doesn't. But finish the paper, मतलब ये नहीं कि that you are doing eeny, meeny, miny, mo, right? It is when you are able to read the paper, etc., etc. So even if you can't read 150 questions, if you've been practicing a lot and you can do more than 100, you can do 110, 120, but with high accuracy, because you can't get too many negative marks, right? Then you are in with a good shout. Okay, abhi tak any questions that you want to ask me? Abhi tak samajh aa raha hai na what I'm saying? You can comment on the YouTube chat, live chat, and I can then see. Before we move forward. Now, let me see. What are the comments? Okay, I can't see any comments. So either you're understanding everything or nothing at all. So I'd like to think that you are understanding something. So let's move forward. Okay. So let's start, let's get to the, meat of it. So one of the key elements that you find in AILET, right? And when I was also giving the paper, was that, I came out of the paper and I asked people around, so how was your paper? They're like, I had 40 questions. I'm like, 40 questions? So I had managed to, like finish around 130, 140. So I was shocked. I was like, wait, you have left 40 questions and these were like nice, people who were doing well. So that's when I realized, oh my God, my paper went really well. So one of the most important things, and these were intelligent people. It's not that these people are not smart. It's just that the time window is also like that. What happens is, as you see the last 30 or 40 minutes approaching, so the last 30, 40 questions that you're doing also, you start panicking. Even the things that you would do wrong, the things that you would normally do right, you start doing wrong in the panic. You start calculating, you start, guessing more, or you don't do the full calculation and you just put D, it's looking like D, right? So managing time is very important, but more than that, managing expectations. See, you have to judge by the paper how many marks will the cutoff be. Like, some papers you can see and you can say, this may cutoff come hone wala, this paper is difficult, right? As you go through the LA section, you realize, oh my God, I've done questions before, but these long, difficult questions, इसमें कम आने वाला है. Like for example, NLU Delhi का classic, if you get that tough kind of questions, etc., then you know the cutoff is going to be around 75, around 50%, right? So you see that there is less time. Now, time has to be divided among all 5 sections, right? So you have to decide how much time you are giving per section. A lot of people make mistake that they don't have time for one section. So वो LA करते जाएंगे and after 60 minutes they'll say, sir, my LA was really good, but then I only had 30 minutes to appear. So I leave it to you. Do you want to give LA 20 minutes? Do you want to give LA 25 minutes? Right? That is up to you. But once you decide a time, then you stick to it. In the paper, you move on to the next section. So now the question is, sir, how do I decide this time? Right? So you decide this time based on your past 5, 7, 8 mocks. You look at your mocks and you see how much time are you usually taking. So for example, somebody could be very good at English and might take only 15 minutes for 35 questions. Right? A genius, or 20 minutes for 35 questions. But somebody could be weak in maths. So for those 10 marks, they might have to take, or for those 10 questions, they might have to take 12 to 15 minutes. So long as you fit into the 90 minutes, that is the important criteria. So divide 90 minutes as you will. So that is where sections like GK become critical. Because in such a condensed paper, GK is a place where 35 questions can be done in 7 minutes, 8 minutes. You can't do that in English, you can't do that in maths, you can't do that in logical reasoning, right? So this is where your use of GK should be very, the strategy should be very clear. Should you attempt GK first or second or third, right? That is the question. So one question as to, sir, how do we divide our time? You have to divide time as per your comfort, right? Now, your comfort, as I said, has to be analyzed by the previous years or the previous questions or previous mocks that you have given, which gives you a good idea about how much time you take per section. And if that section is taking more time, then you leave it. Now, the problem with leaving questions, right, is that a lot of people, what they do, they start with question number 1. Okay, LA mein there are 35 questions, they'll start with question number 1. By the time they come to question number 10, they realize that, oh, I had to give it only 25 minutes, right? So I'm already at 25 minutes, now I have to move on. Now, what they don't realize is question number 1 to, let's say, 15 were long LA questions, very complicated. And questions 16 to 35 were LGK questions. Now think of it, you could have attempted, there is no difference between the mark, that 1 mark that you get by doing a question for like 10 minutes or a question that you do for 10 seconds. So the first thing, once you divide your time, once you decide, okay, I have 22, 24, whatever, 25 minutes or 20 minutes for LA, you give the first couple of minutes or the first minute quickly glancing through the section, right? This is a paper-based paper. So you just try to figure out what is the structure of the section. Maybe you look at it and you see, oh, listen, there are more LGK questions and there are very long LA questions. But LA questions are at the beginning. So you just don't start from one, all right? You tell yourself, I'm going to start from the part which whatever in 5 minutes I can do 20 questions. Then the rest 15 minutes I can devote here. अगर इसमें 2 question भी रह गए तो मेरे 2 mark रह गए. I ended up attempting 33, right? So a lot of people, some people are asking me questions. There are two questions regarding GK. One, they are saying there are tons of things what to study, and sir, what is the ideal time for doing GK? So yes, that is why GK is tough, because there are tons of things to study. And that is why GK often ends up in such a tight paper. It ends up being a decider section, because GK is a section where you can get 35 minutes at 25, and your competition is getting 35 minutes at 3. We've all been there. Kuch nahi aata tha GK, right? So now see, there are a few things that you can do about GK even at a late stage. One, IMS must have sent you, or must have provided you with some kind of material, the GK fact bites, which basically sum up what's been happening throughout the year. So if you have done that, you are in a good place. Second, I believe that there are regular GK revision sections on important 150 topics and 150 questions. That is something that you could focus on. So that is one thing. The second thing is ideal time for doing GK. See, there is no ideal time for anything. It is what is ideal for you in the paper. So maybe ideal for you for GK sections to give 15 minutes so that you get maximum marks. But if you do that, you might end up leaving, logical section out. So maybe you only have to give 10 minutes to GK. Now, how do you decide that timing? So you have to see which is the paper where I, attempted well, like where I got good marks. And then you see, all right, if I give this much time to GK and if I give this much time to LA, etc., I seem to score well. So whichever works for you. So whichever you look at your mocks and you see kahan mere, where am I scoring well? What kind of strategy? Oh, if I do LA first, then I score more. But if I do that same paper and I put LA last, then I do badly because LA last, I can't, I can't seem to understand anything in the last 30 minutes, right? So these are things for you to consider. According to me, you should not take for 35 questions more than 7 to 10 minutes, right? That is a, 7 would be very competitive, and I mean, if you can do it, you'll be, in very high in the, you should be very high in the GK section at least, right? Then there is this question of legal GK. Now, legal GK is itself an interesting thing. One thing about legal GK is that normal GK is like an ocean. It is unlimited. There is no end to it. But legal GK is more like a pond. You can swim in it. So the one thing that I would suggest is there are these. One IMS provides you with important legal GK as part of their snippets also, right? But if any of you have any compilation of recent legal GK, then I would strongly suggest you go through it, because legal GK is not like you know normal GK. Legal GK फिर भी limited है थोड़ा. You get it कि थोड़ा court के बारे में होगा, कोई latest law आ गया. Especially all the important topics, right? I hope you know the farmers' protests, right? I hope you've heard of UAPA and things like this. A lot is happening. Supreme Court में रोज interesting चीजें होते रहती हैं. So yeah, those are very important things, right? So right, by now we were discussing a couple of topics, but let's look at the structure of the paper, which we've already spoken about the marks assigned. But as we discuss the legal aptitude, I mean, NLU Delhi, the AILET paper is known for being very tough to comprehend. Like you have to read the question twice, thrice. So you have to be very strategic about it. Like by now, you know the reality that maybe you're very good at contract law, but you are not very good at tort law. So if you think you're very good at contracts, maybe you should attempt the contract question first, right? So this is one. Okay. Ideally, a section like legal aptitude should not be your last couple of sections, myself, that you are attempting, because legal aptitude is mentally heavy, right? You have to read long things, understand long things. So often if you start with start in the first couple of sections doing something like legal aptitude, it is going to be more beneficial because your mind will be fresh. But if you overdo it, if you do legal aptitude and English together, then by the time you're done with it, your brain is just fried. It can't do the maths questions, etc., etc. So what did I follow? The strategy I actually followed was that I gave the English section first. My English was very good. Was not as good as yours anymore. And my GK section I gave after the English section. So GK section is more of a cool off. You don't have to बहुत दिमाग नहीं लगाना पड़ता है, heavy चीजें नहीं पढ़नी पड़ती है. And then I did my legal aptitude section. So these three were very good for me. So also because these three were very good for me. Okay, if your GK section is not good or if your English section is not good, don't start with that. But for me, my English section, you should generally start with your strongest section, and you should try to make sure that legal and English are in the first, 3 or 4 sections that you do. Not leave it for the last because they are heavy sections. Okay, so yeah, somebody's asking me what is a good score in GK. See, what's a good score in GK? See, any score that takes if GK, how should I put it? Yeah, I guess that 35 में से आधा तो कर ही लो. You should get around 20 at least. Like that is at least if you want to get in. That is the minimum. That is if you're doing very well in other sections. But if your other sections are weak and if your GK is strong, then maybe you shouldn't go by 25, 25 to 28. So if you're getting, let's say, 25 in GK out of 35, then in the rest 115 marks, how many marks do you need? 40 marks out of 115. Right? So if your GK is strong in first 5, let's say 10 minutes, you are done with 25. Now you need 40 more marks in the next 80 minutes, right? Now that's doable. Sorry, 50 more marks. What is my calculation? That's 65. 50 more marks in the next 80 minutes, which I think is much more doable, right? So again, a good score in legal aptitude. See, all this depends how much are you getting in other section. A lot of people will say legal aptitude में मुझे 35 में से 25 लाना है, तो मैं पूरा time legal aptitude पे लगाऊंगा, दूसरी चीजों को नहीं लूंगा. You have to see how, this is like a cake. ऐसा नहीं है कि बस चीनी ज्यादा डाल दो बढ़िया बन जाएगा. Everything has to be in balance. You have to put enough chocolate, you have to put the right amount of yeast, and only then the correct thing comes out. ऐसा नहीं है कि I like चीनी हो तो बस चीनी डालो. तो मुझे legal aptitude पसंद है, बता दो legal aptitude चीनी कितनी डालो. भाई केक कितना बड़ा है? How is the section going, right? So somebody's saying they are getting GK में 30 marks out of 35. Very nice. I hope that continues, and we get to see your name and your photo in the list of toppers. Parishi Gupta says, "Sir, as vocab of IELTS is so tough. What should we do for that?" Very nice. So actually, that is the next thing we will be coming to, which is comprehension-based reading comprehension questions and vocabulary-based questions, right? Fill in the blanks kind of questions. So let's see. So comprehension based reasonable. So we've already spoken about. So what does a comprehension entail, right? What does the word mean? It means comprehending. Now, for most of us, the problem is not comprehending. If I give you a passage and I give you an hour now, you will do all the questions right. What is our problem? Our problem is that I can't do it in 5 minutes, right? The speed is often the problem. Now, improving speed has various ways of solving. I mean, so you have to understand one thing. At the end of it, you have to solve the question. So it's not. So can you do the question without reading it? 95 or whatever, 90% of the times, no. But one of the things that I worked for me, I don't know if it will work for you or not, is one, I try to give a lot of papers, for those of you who have. So what it does is you practice comprehension again and again. You still have time to practice separate comprehension questions and it will increase your speed. The second, I used to read the question first, right? Just quickly just go through what does it want, all right? The three, four questions. And then I would read the comprehension and then I would mark that, oh, okay, first answer is here, second answer is here. So a couple of them are always factual. You can pick it out from the passage. Then a couple are more, basically you have to deduce the mood of the author or something like that, right? And there you have keywords like disappointed or felt low, or something like that around. There must be something. And that is something that you should do. Now, vocabulary for IELTS. Yes, that is the big one, right? Isn't it? So not only vocabulary, you have other things in IELTS such as figures of speech, etc., etc. Now, my strong advice to you, therefore, is for those of you who have already done word power made easy, good on you. For others who haven't, if you have some time to take out, maybe do a few exercises. You may not be able to do the entire thing. Maybe do the first 8, 10 chapters at least. That will be some benefit to you. But one of the things that I think you should focus on are the kind of questions that came in your mock test. So, for example, if you regularly see figures of speech or questions about, what would this sentence like? What are those questions where they ask you about adverb? You know what I mean, right? The adverb, verb, stuff which sentence may, how there's the word used. So that is, yeah, that is something that you need to focus on. And how do you prepare for it? The most critical element at this stage, I mean, ऐसे तो prepare करने का वही है कि आप अच्छे से पढ़ो, etc., etc. But at this stage, your preparation should be focused around the kind of questions that are coming in the mocks, right? So yeah, there is no need to read more anymore. There is need to revise more anymore. For people who are asking me, what do I need to read more? No, don't need to read. When you're doing comprehension also, you're just practicing, just like maths. I would suggest you give mock test papers or past year papers to get yourself used to the kind of paper that comes, right? So maybe give last year's NLU Delhi if you haven't, or give it again just to see if your strategy is working out or not, right? That is that. Then reasoning section, as we've seen in NLU Delhi, another problem that it is again very much comprehension based. So what is the problem with all this? All this is, I mean, it's difficult, fine, but it's not difficult that you can't solve it. It is difficult to do all this in 90 minutes. So the critical part here is being very selective about the questions that you do. There is no point giving 10 minutes to a question and then realizing at the end of it that you can't solve it. इतना सब solve करने के बाद भी गलत आ गया, negative बढ़ गया, right? So that is, so question selection is crucial. And how do you make question selection well? So I'll tell you what I did when I had the paper, when I was giving the paper. The first 3 to 4 minutes, like my official, I had 5 minutes to myself. But first 3 to 4 minutes, I just read through the paper. I did not attempt. Everybody was marking immediately. I did not do anything like that. I just read through the paper, right? And then I figured out that which sections I should I just stick by my strategy? Like, for example, if English is my best, so I normally start with English, but I realize, oh, wow, in this one, English is very long and very complicated. So all my energy will be drained. Right. So what I noticed in the paper was that the English was okay, right? The legal was, a little tough. So I thought I'll do the English section first. Then I will do the GK section. Then I will do the legal section. And because my maths was weak, I attempted maths the last, but I ended up solving some 6, 7 questions. Okay. A lot of you के लिए बाद में छोड़ देते हैं मतलब कि छोड़ो 0 on 10. Now no one tops or no one generally gets through these papers by getting 0 in a section. So कुछ तो लाना पड़ेगा, हर सेक्शन का कंट्रीब्यूशन है ना. 2 सेक्शन ऐसा नहीं कि 75 लाना है, 2 सेक्शन 3 सेक्शन में नंबर लेके आ गए बाकी में 0, ऐसा नहीं होगा रियलिटी में. So you have to score from everywhere, you have to get your marks contributed from. So Parishi Gupta का question है कि sir, what about if you practice comprehension from the last 10 years papers? Yeah, that's a great idea. Why not? Right. If you already haven't, then you should. Right. Now GK. GK is the interesting one here because we are all used to studying current affairs, and that is the most important thing. So when I say GK snippets, etc., we generally speak about current affairs. Now, at the AILET paper also has static GK. So static GK is the interesting one because the questions can come from a wide range of subjects, right? So the only suggestion that I would have is that you go through the snippets or the fact bites that you have, because the questions that generally come in static are somewhat often related to what is happening today, right? But yeah, there are many questions that are totally random. So just अगर आपने history, civics, geography बचपन में अच्छे से पढ़ी है, so you might be more likely to do this. There's a GK book also that IMS provides, but I hope you have gone through that, and that will be okay. I mean, if you have, then that will be of really great help at this stage. So yeah, so those who have done the GK section, or the static GK from the book, as well as the mock. See, the mock tests are always crucial because they tell you, it is the estimation of what kind of questions will come. So there's a question, and I'm just coming to it, Vaibhav. I'll just come to the logical reasoning section again. The other part is about current affairs GK, right? So now the questions come in levels. So for example, who is the Chief Justice of India? Can anybody answer that? Who is the Chief Justice of India? I'm watching the chat box to see the answer. Right. I hope you guys know the CJI. वरना मुश्किल है अगर CJI का नाम नहीं पता. So anyway, so yes, somebody has already answered. It's NV Ramanna, right? But now, see, that is level 1 question. Now, level 2 question would be which number of Chief Justice of Supreme Court is is Justice Ramanna? Which number is he? CJI. First CJI, 8th CJI, 24th CJI, 93rd CJI. Right? Yes, people have already started answering. This is the 48th CJI. So that is second level of GK. So often हम GK में क्या करते हैं बस ऊपर से पढ़ लेते हैं. So one of the things in GK is that you go into second level of questions. That often comes with curiosity also. You see something and then you're curious that you want to know more. At this stage, a lot of this kind of detail will be provided in the material because see, you can't go through papers and now. So you have to go through summaries. Right? जैसे मैं कहता हूँ GK is like ghee. इतना दूध करोगे तो इतनी मलाई निकलेगी, इतनी मलाई करोगे तो इतना घी निकलेगा. आप न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ोगे तो इतना सारा पढ़ोगे, उसमें कुछ इतना ही काम का होगा. उसमें जो भी काम का है वो भी इतना सही उसमें एक्चुअल पेपर में आएगा. तो अब IMS ने क्या किया, आपके लिए मलाई सारी निकाल के दे दिया, बस घी बनाना है ना. जो इतना सारा दूध कंज्यूम करना था उन्होंने कर लिया इतने सारे न्यूज़पेपर. तो आई वुड सजेस्ट कि आप समरीज के थ्रू जाओ. दे वुड बी वेरी हेल्पफुल एट दिस स्टेज. Right, and of course, I can't stress this enough. The mock tests and the past year papers give you a very good indication of, because GK questions are not same every year, but they are similar. ऐसा नहीं कि स्पेशली सर नोबेल प्राइज पूछा है तो सर पुलिट्जर पूछ लेंगे. It's not like थोड़ा सा, you can't predict it, but sort of किस एरिया से आएगा. इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन से आएगा, स्पोर्ट्स पर्सन से आएगा, साइंस से आएगा, भाई कोई ऐसा मिशन मार्स गए, इंडिया का कुछ स्पेस में हो गया. Things like that. You guys are well aware of all that, so I won't stress on it too much. So the question was, how much time somebody was asking should we give to logical reasoning? See, again, one thing is that logical reasoning is more critical reasoning based in NLU Delhi. And the second thing that you have to realize is that, how good are you at this? So, those questions कि circle में लोग बैठे हैं A, B, C, D, E, F, G, अब कौन किसके right में बैठा है, left में बैठा है. For some people, that question is very simple. So they prefer to give that over, let's say, a long passage of critical reasoning, right? And on the other hand, if you see, there could be someone with very strong comprehension and very strong English, but not very good at these kinds of questions, and they might, not attempt that. So how much time you should take depends on how good you are at these. So you can't take, for example, in a circle में लोग बैठे हैं question ऐसा type है 8-10 minutes etc. to get one thing right. Then you just do 3 questions उस पे based. So तुमने 3 question किए basically 10-12 minutes में. That is problematic. Right? उतनी देर में किसी ने GK section खत्म करके उसमें 25-27 number ले आया. So it's not good enough. So you have to decide your strengths and thereupon divide the time. And see, one thing, please remember, the time that you give to the section, you give it, and after that move on. Forget about it. जो कर दिया कर दिया. All right, there is no coming back. Remember that, because it's only 90-minute paper. There won't be time to come back. Last में will tell yourself, last 4-5 minute में आऊँगा. But अब मैं बहुत बच्चों को advice दी कि last 5 minute में please revise. But बच्चे last 5 minute में भी urgently चीजें करते रहते हैं. So that time doesn't happen anymore. छोड़ दो अगर क्या बोलते हैं नहीं हो रहा है तो, बट छोड़ो वो जो 35 में से इजीएस्ट क्वेश्चंस है, तो 35 में से वो तुमने कर लिए, और जो वीकेस्ट है ना, वो तुमने छोड़ दिए. ओके फाइन. As someone is here saying that they've seen questions in LA repeating, yeah, there are many kinds of questions which are not same but similar, sometimes same also, but very rarely. All right. Then the maths questions, guys, this is my problem with all of you. Like a lot of you just get 0 on 10 in maths, guys. That you're not getting into the top 50, top 70 ranks if you're not like getting 0 on 10 in one section. That's not going to happen. So I strongly suggest that you go through maths and listen. Out of 10 questions, at least 3-4 questions are like very, you don't really have to calculate a lot, right? It's doable. Okay, you can do it. At least 3-4 questions are like that. Like they are not, कि वो समझ ही नहीं आ रहा, right? So yeah. Now a question that somebody has asked me was strategies for solving lengthy RCs with tricky questions. See, the first strategy is to find out whether you want to attempt such a question or not. If it's a very lengthy RC but with only 3 questions, and you think, भाई समझ नहीं आएगा, then why don't you move on to the next RC, which might be easier and has 5 questions, or maybe is equally tough but is there are 5 questions based on it, right? So yeah, the RC thing is one of the most important things is comprehension and reading speed. Reading speed with comprehension. It's not just that you are reading, you are understanding it also. So for those of you who read books, who have read newspapers from the beginning, who have done a lot of comprehension questions, you guys will have an advantage over the others. Because the faster you can read, the more you can go through. The paper, I believe, will be at least 15 to 20 pages, right? The booklet. So there'll be a lot to read in 90 minutes and then understand an answer, right? So yes, now to LA, which is often a lot of kids spend a lot of disproportionate time on LA because they tell me, sir, it is a tiebreaker section. So I always think कि tiebreaker पता है कब होता है? Tiebreaker होता है जब तुम्हारे marks tie होंगे. अगर तुम सिर्फ LA section ही करके आओगे, मैं बहुत बच्चों को जानता हूँ, LA section में सिर्फ 50-60 मिनट लगा दिए, tiebreaker है, tie होगा तो मैं जरूर अच्छा करूँगा. लेकिन फिर आपका आ रहा है 35 out of 150, आपका कभी tie नहीं होगा break करने के लिए अगर ऐसे number लाओगे, right? Yes, LA is important, but at the end, one number is one number. Whether you get it in GK in 20 seconds or in LA in 1 minute or 2 minutes, right? Now in LA also, you have to quickly divide what are the kind of questions that you can do, what you are good at, what you are not. So you must have already seen there are the simple principle fact-based questions, such as there is a principle, there is a fact, and you have to answer the question, right? You know this, but even these ones are a little complicated in AILET. So you have to keep your eyes open if there is any mischief in the facts or something, anything that is not normal. Then there are those multiple principle one questions, which are even more confusing, because often you're thinking to yourself, which option should I apply, right? Which principle should I apply? Now again, they take a lot of time. So over here, reading speed is very helpful, and second, understanding of concept is very important. For example, if you already know the concept of theft, right? So when you read the section, you'll figure it out. Okay, I know what theft is. But for example, if there's a principle you've never seen before, you may have to read it to understand it, read it twice. Okay, what exactly does it mean? What is it trying to say? So thereby, again, the answer is not to ratify principles. The answer is to give so many questions that you are familiar with the principles, that you understand the concept, right? Is that helpful? Are you guys with me till now? You can answer yes on the chat so I can see. Am I going too fast? Right. So I presume it is yes for understanding and not for fast going. Great. Now, everybody's bugbear, a question that everybody hates are these assertion reasoning questions, right? I hated them, right? Now, the critical part about an assertion reasoning question is to first understand what the term assertion means and what the term reasoning means, right? Assertion का मतलब क्या होता है? Assert करना कोई point, right? So for example, if I assert to you that the earth is flat, a reason, because every time I see around me, I see everything flat. So what would the answer for this be? Is the assertion true? The assertion is not true. Is the reasoning true? Is the reasoning true but does not support assertion? What about the reasoning? The reason is everywhere I see, it looks flat. Therefore, the earth is flat. No? Right. Um, nahi na, but the reasoning is false. Huh? Just because you see earth flat does not mean it's flat. Anyway, so that is not the point. The point is first to understand what this term assertion means. If you figure half the battle is won if you figure out what the person is asserting, right? And then you have to realize that what you're asserting, it happens because of the reason. That because is very important. Assertion because reason. Assertion because reason, right? And if you have that kind of mentality, you'll be better equipped to solve these. And see, the final thing is a lot of assertion reasoning questions are legal GK questions. Like, for example, assertion um, Article 368 is about the amendment of the Constitution. Reason, it was amended before Keshav Nanda Bharti case or whatever. It was amended before Keshav Nanda Bharti case. So now, is it true or false? Right. I mean, if you don't know the GK, then you don't know the answer. So assertion reasoning is often legal GK based, and that is something to keep your mind. Right. It's not a comprehension question mostly. Mostly, it is a legal GK question. So people like, sir, समझ नहीं आ रहा, नहीं समझ नहीं आ रहा, उसका प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, आपको पता नहीं है. Okay, आधे assertion reasoning तो LG के अच्छे होने से आपके हो जाएंगे. Now, legal GK questions जो straightforward आते हैं. We've already spoken about legal GK. Right, there is a good summary, etc., of important case judgments, so on, so forth, kind of things. Right, that will be really helpful for you. If you focus on these kinds of things, your legal GK, your legal aptitude section should go fine. Don't try and overdo it. See, the aim to finish all 35 questions should be in your mocks. But once you realize, let's say 35 is 25 hi ho raha hai, then you say, okay, in my real paper now I can't rush it. So I will give these, I'll do 25 questions and I'll give it time and I'll get 25, 20 to 23. That is of greater value in AILET. See, what am I telling you? AILET with 50% cutoff hai. So you have to focus on getting things right. Of course, getting things right does not mean कि आपसे 10 question करके आओ 10 on 10 लाओ, right? It is, imperative that you do a decent amount of questions. So at least, I mean, at least 100 questions you should do. Like that is, I mean, somewhere around the minimum, right? Ideally, उससे ज़्यादा करने चाहिए, but like 100 अगर आपको निकालना है 100 तो करना चाहिए. Then there is a question that says, is it necessary to learn the sections for this part? No, it is not necessary to learn the sections, but it is important to understand the concepts. What you can learn are, or take memorize by heart, are sections that are using common parlance. Like section 144, right, of CRPC, which you always keep on hearing nowadays during Corona lockdown, or you keep on hearing of this National Disaster Management Authority, right? And there's a Disaster Management Act, and there is an Epidemics Act. These are the kinds of things that are in the news. So, उनके section पे ज़्यादा focus करना चाहिए. बाकी generally, a lot of questions come from Constitution, which article or which case, laid down what principle. That is usually the thing that comes, right? So, legal section. Are there any more questions about legal section? One thing, let me remind you again about legal section. One, that you have to first look at the section as a whole before you just dive into it. Then you have to make a smart decision about the kind of questions you'll start with or end with. Maybe the section is exactly like you prefer. Then start immediately. But first, just see, is it or is it not? And then you change your strategy accordingly, right? Then second, stick to your time. And once you are done, just move on. All right? There is no need to हो गया उस पे और तुम वापस आते रहोगे तो और टाइम वेस्ट होगा because पेपर आगे पीछे ऊपर नीचे करोगे that will be more problematic. Now one of the things that I think a lot of people make mistakes in are those circle markings. किसके साथ हुआ है? मेरे साथ मॉक टेस्ट में बहुत हुआ है. ऑलराइट, कैसे होता था मेरे साथ? लाइक एक मैंने क्वेश्चन छोड़ दिया बीच में. ओके, देन व्हाट डिड आई डू? मैंने सिर्फ 2 छोड़ दिया. अब मैं अगला सॉरी 2 कर रहा था, फिर मुझे 3 टफ लगा, मैंने 3 छोड़ दिया, मैंने 4 को सॉल्व करना शुरू कर दिया. मैंने 4 को सॉल्व कर लिया. But when I go to mark it, I mark 3 वाला because वो खाली पड़ा हुआ था. Right? Then I start going down. मैं सारे आंसर करने लगता हूँ एक के बाद, मुझे लगता है ऊपर छोड़ा हुआ. Then I go back and I see सारे आंसर एक एक से बिल्कुल अलग हो गए. Right? You understand what I'm saying, right? So one of the critical things is that you do 5 questions, and then there are 5 questions ka box or 10 questions ka box hota hai. So either you do 5 questions or 10 questions, and then like do 1 to 5 you solve and you mark on your paper, and then you mark 1 to 5 together at once. Then you move on to the next block, so that there is no confusion. Like once a block is over, it's over. Once the first 5 questions are over, you are done with that block. Right? Do the questions first, then mark. Do the question next 5, then mark. Do the next 5, then mark. Right? Yeah. So one of the questions is, please tell, is it important to learn all the sections of contract law? No, but you have to know the principles behind those sections. That you must know what is, what is an offer, what is an acceptance, what happens in the case, what is a contract in restraint of trade, a contract in restraint of marriage, and so on and so forth. Right? Is a GK thing? Is the legal section clear till now? Are there any questions? Anything that I can help you with? Shall we? Shall we move on? I'm just seeing what questions I have. Okay, great. So yeah, let's move on then. Okay. All right. Let's do a question. Okay, from the NLU Delhi paper. So I'm going to keep this open for 2-3 minutes. I will give you more time to read right now because this is what we're just discussing how to go about it. So I'm also reading with you. Let's see. ये सब तो प्रिंसिपल पता होने चाहिए. Shall I move on आगे? और principles में लग रहा है multiple principle वाला question. I'm moving on, okay, to the next section. I hope you have read it. Have you? वरना मजा नहीं आएगा. All right. Great. I'm looking at the chat. I don't know what these yes are for. Okay, chalo. The next 3 principles. Nice. Exceptions to doctrine of privity, quasi-contract, very interesting. Okay. Right, shall we move on to the question? Yeah. Oh, this question is from some past year paper, no? I've seen this question many times. Oh, I don't remember the answer though. Damn it. I think one of the easy things is to just do all the past year papers, see the kind of questions that come, so we have a good idea in case a question is repeated. I'm going to keep this open for a minute more. Then we'll move on to the next question. So we'll have some water. Right. Okay. I love it when people ask me the source to get past your papers. Right. Uh, yeah. When people ask me source to get past your papers, the the funny thing is, तुम बच्चे आजकल सारी पिक्चरें डाउनलोड कर लेते हो, गेम्स डाउनलोड कर लेते हो फ्री में, सारे गाने फ्री में सुनते हो, लेकिन उससे एक पेपर नहीं मिल सकता तुम्हें. तो एनीवे, I have seen kids with lot of papers and access to papers. I think you can also buy them from the store formally. Yeah. So anyway, I hope you have read the question now. I'm moving forward to the options. Hmm. So did you read the end? I hope you read the end properly, right? Yeah. Now what should be the answer? इसमें आंसर क्या होना चाहिए? ये लोग मुझे बच्चे बता रहे हैं एनर्जी डे की वेबसाइट पे फ्री पे मिलता है. अरे यार थोड़ा सर्च तो कर लो, गूगल मार लो यार. तो मुझे बच्चे पता नहीं कहीं कहीं से पेपर भेजते रहते हैं, तो मेरे पास तो सारे मिल जाते हैं, लेकिन राइट. So I'm getting various answers. Somebody is saying D, somebody is saying B. Great. दो ऑप्शन तो कवर कर लिए. इनमें से चारों ऑप्शन बोल देते हैं, कोई तो सही निकलेगा. इसमें इसमें क्रूशियल एस्पेक्ट क्या है इस क्वेश्चन में? What is a crucial aspect? Why is this question a little twisted? What is a crucial aspect in this question? The crucial aspect is in the question is this part, right? The court decided that Good Tire had no right to access damages. Which of the following reasons are correct? So what is the question asking you to do? The question is telling you, listen, the court has already decided, okay, right? And now you tell me, uh now you tell me as to, sorry, for someone else. So you tell me as to why, what are the reasons for which the court would have held in favor of the, you know, in favor of the other party. So, yeah. So as for me, there are three reasons, na? See, what are the reasons? Let's look at the reasons. One, contractual rights and liabilities are exclusive to the parties to the contract. Fine. So, okay. So one applies, right? One definitely applies. We all agree. So then B can't be the answer because B may one hai nahi. Fantastic. Then second wala kya hai? Good Tire had not given any consideration to best motor and therefore there could be no binding contract. Okay, consideration के बारे में क्या कुछ principle है क्या इन लोगों ने दिया हुआ है? अरे देखो दिया हुआ है. Magic. So consideration is something that moves from the promisee to the promisor at the implied or express request of the latter in return of his promise. The item that moves can be a right, interest, profit, loss, responsibility given or suffered, forbearance or a benefit which is of some value in the eyes of law. So let us see. Could had they given any consideration in this case? Good Tire. So maybe the court thought this also, right? I mean, I don't know. Kuch the other consideration Good Tire. Should we look at the facts again? Has Good Tire given any consideration? Right. Okay. All right. So then we have two options only, C and D left. Okay. Fantastic. Now this is saying third is Good Tire was not listed as an agent within the contract and could therefore not be included as a valid third party who had rights to claim on the contract. Okay. So they are saying one reason that the court could have said is that he was not listed as an agent. तो इसकी कुछ बात है क्या? Okay, there are few exceptions to doctrine of privity of contract, like agency. Okay, so if you're an agent, there could be an exception. But all right, this seems likely, right? So what is the question? The court decided that good tire had no right to access damages. Which of the following reasons are correct? So doesn't this seem correct? Like all of them, it seems. No, good tire was not listed as an agent. Where was it listed? Good Tire is a tire manufacturer who agreed to the dealer to not sell tires below recommended price as part of the agreement. Good Tire also required. So between the dealer and Best Motors. So now the question is the would the in normal circumstances you would say that Good Tire is a third party beneficiary. But what has happened here? The judge has already ruled. So you have to decide what were the possible reasons that judge could have ruled in their favor. So if this is true, then it seems the judge would have ruled in this favor also. So I would actually go with 1, 2, 3, D. Right? Yes, because it was a third party does not mean that it was listed as an agent. This is the crucial part. Right? Okay. Um, should I move on? Or are there more questions? Right. Uh, right. So then we move on to the next slide. Are you guys understanding what I'm saying? Yeah. So sir ke upar se ja raha. Which one is it? Then we can move on to the next one. If you've understood what we were talking about. Right. All right. Then most common types of questions in reasoning. So logical reasoning we've touched upon briefly. The critical part in the logical reasoning aspect is practice. Practice, practice, practice. The more you practice, the better you get. Right? There is no shortcut to this. It won't suddenly come to you. You know कि इतने बच्चे physics लेते हैं, इतने बच्चे maths लेते हैं, total कितने बच्चे हैं, those kinds of questions that are there. या physics, maths and biology में इतने बच्चे हैं, इतने बच्चे ये लेते हैं, इतने बच्चे वो लेते हैं. Those kinds of questions. Right? There is no alternative to this other than practicing as much as you can. Right? And that is my suggestion to you, to practice this. If you feel you're not good at it, no, that's not true. You haven't practiced enough. Right? And even at the last minute, there is a certain amount of practice that you can do. You don't have to learn it forever. You have to crack the exam now. The exam is close by. Right? This will help you in other papers also. So I strongly suggest you do some practice. Then verbal reasoning. We've discussed the issues with verbal reasoning. One is the time it takes, the comprehension part. See, at the end of the day, the paper only tests for three things: comprehension, concept, and concentration. That's it. Do you understand the question? If you understood, can you then apply the concept? And then can you concentrate for 90 minutes, or will you get tired after 30 minutes or not? That is all. I bet all of you can do the entire paper and get 150 on 150 if I gave you 3 days. But the problem is you have to do that in 90 minutes, and वहां से problem शुरू होती है, right? So in verbal reasoning and all, your comprehension skill will be very important. Try to reach the answer, not finish the reading. Many times when the reading is simple, you can skip a few lines. Skip a few lines. I don't mean don't read it at all. You just skim through it, and you just see अगर कुछ important है, वरना you move forward. Right? We are clear with that. Okay. So yeah, the assumption, statement, conclusion, all these, these are again practice based because you get hints from the questions that you do. So the more you practice, you will get better at these. So I strongly suggest you look at the past mock papers which were wrong, like where the questions went wrong. Like go to the question and see, did I not comprehend it? कि भाई मेरे तो समझ ही नहीं आया सर question. Yeah, did you not apply the concept? यार मैं question तो समझ गया लेकिन इसमें ये concept apply करना था, मैंने ये कर दिया. या concentration कि यार मैं easily कर लेता लेकिन वो आखिरी 10 मिनट तक ना मेरा दिमाग चलना बंद हो गया था, मुझे ये लगा मैं ये मार्क करके आया. Which one is it? अगर कॉम्प्रिहेंशन खराब है तो आपको जितना बाकी चीजें प्रैक्टिस करनी है करते रहो, वो इम्प्रूव नहीं है. और जब तक वो नहीं इम्प्रूव होगा तब तक आपके उस पर नंबर नहीं बढ़ेंगे, क्योंकि कॉम्प्रिहेंशन की वजह से तुम रुके हो. अगर आप कॉन्सेप्ट की वजह से रुके होगे, आ तो सब जाता है मुझे, लेकिन मुझे कॉन्सेप्ट कुछ नहीं आता, तो भाई आप लकी हो, क्योंकि कॉन्सेप्ट सीखना अगर आप शार्प हो तो आप जल्दी कर सकते हो, और आप सारे बच्चे यहाँ शार्प हो, so you can do it very easily, right? You can pick up interesting concepts like torts, contract, even maths and logical reasoning quite fast. Concentration is the, again, a difficult one. You can't just one day decide कि अब से मैं रोज 90 मिनट concentrate करूंगा. So I suggest, जैसे आज तुम बैठे हो 2 बजे, वैसे तुम रोज 2 बजे एक पेपर के साथ जस्ट ऐसे ही 90 minutes you sit and do something at 2, so that your body is used to sitting at, if you're used to sleeping. These are some of the tips that I have for giving the papers. At the last minute, see, the focus should be on what? The focus should be not on learning more. You have learned enough, यार तुम 1 साल से पढ़ रहे हो. The focus should be on being able to produce all that in the paper. ऐसा नहीं मुझे ये आता था, वो आता था, ये आता था, लेकिन मैं करना ही भूल गया, पैनिक में नहीं कर पाया, कुछ गलती हो गई, at that time फोकस नहीं कर पाया. Right now is the crunch time. All of you can crack, all of you can get 75. That much knowledge you have. The problem is, will you be able to put it into the paper? So, couple of things. One I want to tell you is now be very careful. So, cricket मत खेलने जाओ, बाथरूम में ध्यान से ना हो. क्या होता है, आधे बच्चे, कोई क्या बोलते हैं, देखना इतने 20-25 हजार बच्चे दे रहे हैं ना, 2-4 बच्चे ऐसे होंगे जो फिसल जाएंगे, हाथ टूट जाएगा बाथरूम में. 2-4 होंगे जो बाहर गोलगप्पे खा लेंगे और उनको क्या बोलते हैं, कुछ ऐसा पेट फूड पॉइजनिंग हो जाएगी. 2-4 यहाँ घूमने उमने ज्यादा जाएंगे, उनको कोरोना हो जाएगा, वो पेपर नहीं देने जा पाएंगे. you know so there are these things. So first thing, you have to be healthy, you have to reach the center. अगर तुम सेंटर ही ना पहुंचे तो कितना भी साल भर पढ़ा हो इज अ टोटल वेस्ट. तो वन, बी हेल्थी, डोंट ब्रेक एनीथिंग, डोंट ईट एनीथिंग. घर का खिचड़ी खाओ रोज, लेकिन अभी तबीयत मत खराब होने दो, है ना. मम्मी बोलेगी बेटा बाहर का खा रहे हो, नहीं मम्मी नहीं, अगले कुछ दिन में सुधर गया. ओके. Second thing is not only to be physically healthy, it is to be mentally healthy. Mentally healthy matlab, please sleep on time, right? Please keep your sleeping pattern healthy. ऐसा ना हो कि आपको दो, आप फिजिकली तो पहुंच गए, वैसे फिजिकली हेल्दी हो, लेकिन रोज दिन में 2 बजे नींद आती है खाना खाने के बाद. तो आज भी पेपर में पहुंचे, पता चला बढ़िया नींद आ रही है ना, पेपर नहीं दे पा रहे. ऐसा बहुत बच्चों के साथ होता है, राइट. तो प्लीज अपना स्लीपिंग पैटर्न सही से सेट करो कि 2 बजे योर माइंड शुड बी एट फुल अलर्ट. यू नो व्हाट आई मीन व्हेन यू आर टोटली फोकस्ड. एंड जब तुम सो के उठते हो कभी कभी और तुम 15 मिनट पढ़ते हो, तो यू हैव टू फोकस. सो समथिंग लाइक दैट, you have to do it too. So that is crucial. So that is keeping us mentally fine. Then other things that you should take care of. One, do you guys know where your center is? ऐसा नहीं हो कि भाई ऐसा मेरे साथ हुआ, मैं कोई और एग्जाम देने जा रहा था एंड मुझे लगा आई न्यू वेयर द सेंटर वाज, बट व्हेन आई रीच देयर एक्चुअली इट वाज लाइक नहीं ये गेट बंद है. अब वो मैंने ऑटो किया था, ऑटो वाला मुझे बोला नहीं भाई आपका ये लोकेशन है, मैं यहाँ तक जाऊंगा. फिर देन आई टू, वो भी 2 बजे एग्जाम था. अब 2 बजे की, वो 1:30 बजे की गर्मी में मैं यहाँ वहाँ घूम रहा हूँ कि भाई कौन सा गेट खुला है ना. तबियत खराब हो जाए तो अंदर आप पहुंचते हो, जस्ट लाइक सर दर्द हो रहा है, ये हो रहा है, यू कांट गिव अ पेपर, राइट. सो वन, यू शुड नो योर सेंटर कि भाई कौन सा गेट खुला है, कितना ट्रैफिक होता है. ऐसा नहीं कि तुम उस दिन गए थोड़ा आराम से, बट बिकॉज ऑफ द एग्जाम देयर इज अ ह्यूज रश, सो देयर एंड्स अप बीइंग अ ह्यूज ट्रैफिक जैम. यू गेट सुपर टेंस्ड अबाउट योर पेपर की शिट में, इतना लेट हो रहा हूँ, पापा क्या होगा क्या होगा. एंड यू गेट टेंस, यू गो रनिंग कि भाई दूर से उतर के गाड़ी से भाग के जाते हो. ऑल दिस एड्स टू योर स्ट्रेस. Don't do that. If you think it will take more time to reach, please leave early. पूरा साल इस पेपर के लिए प्रिपेयर किया है. What are you waiting for? राइट, थोड़ा 15 मिनट जल्दी चले जाओ. एक मिस्टेक वहां पहुंच के क्या होती है कि भाई तेरे को सोमालिया के वाइस प्रेसिडेंट का नाम पता है, तेरे को क्या बोलते हैं सेंट्रल अफ्रीकन रिपब्लिक के प्रेसिडेंट का नाम पता है ना. डू यू नो मुकेश अंबानी का फेवरेट रेस्टोरेंट? डू यू नो वेयर प्रियंका चोपड़ा इज ऑन हॉलीडे नाउअडेज? नाउ ऑल दोस क्वेश्चंस people will ask you when you go to the center, did you find out about this, about that? And obviously, you don't know everything, right? Nobody knows everything. But the game is not to know everything. The game is to know enough things in the paper, right? So, another crucial part: do not talk to other people when you go to the center, because बहुत बच्चों का क्या, उनको खुद तो कुछ आता नहीं है, लेकिन तुम्हें टेंशन दे दे के तुम्हें भुलवा देंगे, है ना. तो डोंट गेट इनटू दैट ओवर. तुझे आता है ना सब कुछ, भाई मेरे से दूर रहे, डोंट टॉक टू. सेकंड, आफ्टर द पेपर ऑल्सो, आफ्टर द पेपर क्या होता है, हमें लगता है कि मैं तो मेरा पेपर बहुत अच्छा गया. तो देन यू स्पीक टू समवन एंड देन यू रियलाइज ओ माय गॉड, ये तो कह रहा है इसका सब उसका ए था, मेरा लेकिन मैंने बी मार्क किया, कि इसका सी था मैंने डी मार्क किया. एंड यू गेट वेरी टेंस्ड कि यार मेरा क्या होगा. हो सकता है उस बंदे को भी कुछ नहीं आता है ना, और तुम्हारे सही है, लेकिन तुम इतना स्ट्रेस ले लोगे कि अगला एग्जाम खराब हो जाएगा. ऐसा बहुत बच्चों के साथ होता है. दे जस्ट गेट कि मैंने साल भर पढ़ा यार, पूरा पेपर खराब हो गया, अब क्या रखा है, ये भी पेपर अच्छा नहीं जाएगा. यू गेट डिमोटिवेटेड. सो प्लीज ensure that that does not happen to you, right? And finally, please, these papers are just that. These are papers. They don't, I mean, they don't decide the final outcome of your life. Of course, they are helpful. Going to a good college is always better. You will have much more fun and all. But take away as a life and death, ये सब का game नहीं है. And worse come worse, there is always next year. Entrance exam के साथ तो यही मजा है कि अगले साल से repeat दे देंगे. है ना? Repeat नहीं क्या? What is it called? Drop year लेके you will give it again, right? So अभी तक you guys are clear, right? So then we can move forward. Okay, right? Sure. I'll take that as a yes. Uh, all right. So yeah, we are at most common types of questions in English. We've English discussed English in certain depth, right? So we've already spoken about comprehension being a crucial part in English, and in the IELET paper, they will ask you vocabulary, they will ask you fill in the blanks. Grammar पे इतने question आते हैं, है ना? मैं भी काफी बार प्रॉब्लम में आ जाता हूँ कि भाई what is the answer, because सब grammar के rules बचपन में पढ़े थे and I don't remember them. So that is quite interesting. Then figures of speech पे question आते हैं, हर समय डरावने question होते हैं, ऐसे ऐसे word लंबे लंबे आते हैं, हमको pronounce नहीं करना आता है हमें भी, है ना? उनके meaning क्या है दूर दूर तक नहीं पता. तो मेरी एडवाइस तो होगी भाई जो पुराने आ चुके हैं उनको तो समझ लो, है ना? और होप करो कि उन्हीं में से आए, या एटलीस्ट चार में से दो ऑप्शन उन्हीं में से आए. होप का दूसरा ऑल्टरनेटिव है कि आप सारे पढ़ लो, बट अगर आपने अभी तक नहीं पढ़ा है तो ज्यादा पढ़ोगे तो ज्यादा टेंशन होगा. जितना पढ़ा है उसको सही करो. अगर आपको 100 में से 85 क्वेश्चन आते हैं तो आप प्लीज इंश्योर करो कि आप 85 करेक्ट करो. ये कोशिश मत करो कि मैं पूरे 150 करके आऊंगा, है ना? 150 में से मुझे अगर 85 आते हैं, दैट इज द क्रिटिकल पार्ट. बट एटलीस्ट 85-90 क्वेश्चन करने पर, मतलब एटलीस्ट 100 क्वेश्चन, मेरी मानो तो मिनिमम 100, है ना, करने पड़ेंगे. दैट इज ऑल्सो नॉट मच. 66% ऑफ द पेपर, तुम 95% लाते हो पेपर में, और तो बोलो तुम्हें 66% तो अटेम्प्ट करना है, जिसमें तुम्हें कुछ 60% सही लाना है ना, ताकि तुम्हारा ओवरऑल स्कोर 50-55% हो, है ना? देन यू हैव ऑलरेडी क्रैक द पेपर. ओके, टिल नाउ इट इज क्लियर. Yeah, I am just waiting for the responses on chat. राइट, ओके. हाँ जी, ये लो आ गया एक इंग्लिश का खतरनाक क्वेश्चन. विच वन इज इट? लेट्स डू दिस. प्लीज आंसर द क्वेश्चन. आई होप यू नो व्हाट दीज वर्ड्स मीन. एडवर्ब, preposition, adjective, noun. आपने सुने होंगे बचपन में ये सब स्कूल में. हाँ जी, तो आंसर क्या होना चाहिए? ओ सॉरी, इसके ऑप्शन है क्या आगे? हैव यू ऑल सीन द ऑप्शंस? हाँ, यस, श्योर. So this is the question. All right, and I will just quickly show you the options once you are done. Done? All right, sure. Okay. These are the options. What should be the right answer? Yeah. Can you see the answer options? Okay. Somebody is saying B, somebody is saying C. Hmm. Okay. Let's decide this. Adverb. What is a word here? जिसकी बात हो रही है? Following are the. Let's look at the question. Did you guys read the question? Following are the question based on the same words, uses different parts of speech. Choose the correct matches. So which word are we talking about here? Which word are we concerned with? Right. We're concerned with the word down. All right. So in which of these sentences is the word down used as an adverb? In which of these sentences? कौन से सेंटेंस में एडवर्ब में यूज हुआ है डाउन? हाँ बिल्कुल. तो आप कह रहे हो डी में यूज हुआ है ना? ऑल राइट. सो क्विकली लेट्स सी ऑप्शंस. डी में हुआ है. डी में हुआ है, सी में हुआ है. Damn, the question is too tough. Huh? All right, it's okay. Let's look at the other one. Where is it used as a noun? Where is the word down used as a noun? A में as a noun use हुआ है. Okay, so all right, so good. तो मतलब 4A होना चाहिए. So you're saying 1D होना चाहिए और 4A होना चाहिए, is it? Is it? Is it so? So then, I think the answer is very clear, na? Which of these options? So now, what do you see? What we just did? We could have gone through all the ones, but we just focus on कि कौन से. For example, अगर मुझे पता है कि 1D है, right, and 4A है, so then I can easily see this. Of course, the question is, am I right or wrong? That is the question. So now let us just to confirm just see कि ये कहता है 2C है, all right, B वाला. So let us see preposition. Does this and this match? Is this used as a preposition over here? 2C है ना? हाँ. Yes, absolutely. I agree with you. There's only one option with 1D and 4A, right? There's no other option with 1D and 4A. So it has to be B. But now I want to confirm whether I'm correct or not. So I just want to see is the next one sahi? मतलब एक बार चलो मैंने जल्दी जल्दी में कर लिया because this is a time saving technique. But you can take a little more time just to confirm, right? So yes, you're all right. I think it should be B, right? That is my estimation also. But again, I'm telling you, I'm no longer as good in giving these English papers as you guys are. I'm Ravi Shastri, you guys are Virat Kohli. Okay. All right, now GK questions. Okay, now GK questions are always so you know the current affairs questions, etc., which you guys are all experts in by now because you've been reading the newspapers as well as GK snippets, etc. But there are always these bouncer questions that come. And one of the most important things, therefore, is that when you read the snippets, is not to just skim through it. So one of the best ways to study is that you divide the snippets or you divide the, how should I put it? You divide the GK material that you have between 4 or 5 friends. Okay, and each friend has to focus particularly on certain area and certain things, and then you guys come and discuss it. So in that case, what you do is you form like a group which is trying to get as much information as you can. So even at the last few moments, if you can discuss all the important things that have happened, right, and if you can do questions, so these kinds of random questions would have already come in past in mock papers, etc., etc. right? So it's very important to keep an eye on. So yeah, that is one thing. Anyway, so iska answer to mujhe bhi nahi pata tha, but apparently it appears to be A. So clearly, I have not been reading my papers as well as you have, right? Then, which of the statements is not correct about the blue dot network? This is the other kind of question that comes. It's a negative question. So it tells you which of them is not correct, right? So, man, I don't even know what the blue dot network is. What is it? Does anybody have an idea? Okay, so I'll just read it from here. The blue dot network is an initiative to grade the infrastructure products in terms of debt, safety, labor standards. Oh, it is being like, Akshay, this is the alternative to the Belt and Road project. Oh, is that correct? It is the alternative to the BRI that China has. Yeah. It is expected to serve as a globally recognized evaluation and certification system with. Oh, okay. So no, it's like a certification system. Hmm. Well, I'm not certain. I'll have to read about it. If I was you and I see this question, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to Google right now and I'm going to find out what this means, right? Because as I told you, questions each are not same, but they are similar. So when you read about this, you will get to know some other similar things, right? And you will learn a little more. So yeah, there are two important things of learning for me. So these are questions out of the blue, which you might feel are out of the blue, but not technically because इनके बारे में newspaper etc. में आया होगा. It's just that it slipped our attention. So now they'll be there in your snippets somewhere. And if not, when you see it in a question in your mock, please find out about it. Okay, right? Okay, fine. Are you guys with me till now? Are you understanding what I'm saying? You can pause here for a second for any questions if there are. Do you have any questions? Any questions for me? I will accordingly proceed. Right. So I'll take that yes as a yes to proceed. Sure. Now, maths questions, guys. I'm really not good at this, but now let us see if these questions are doable or not, right? Let us see. So one of the ways is substitution, and there are other, calculated risk wale methods where it's not tukka, but you try and arrive at the right answer without solving the entire thing. So let's see if it is possible to do this. City A is connected to city B by 4 highways, and city B is connected to city C by 3 highways. Kesari wants to travel from city A to city C by city B. In how many ways can Kesari do it? तो वो तो नहीं, वो नहीं होता कुछ, ये फैक्टोरियल माइनस वो फैक्टर, ऐसा कुछ नहीं होता. 4 फैक्टोरियल माइनस क्या होना चाहिए इसका आंसर? ये काफी इजी नहीं है पहला वाला मैथ्स का क्वेश्चन. पहले वाले मैथ्स के क्वेश्चन का क्या आंसर? अच्छा, वो ऑलरेडी आंसर लिखे हुए. डी. सॉरी, मैंने देखा नहीं. So I don't know exactly how is this calculated. फैक्टोरियल से कुछ होता है ना, 4 फैक्टोरियल माइनस 3 फैक्टोरियल ऐसा कुछ होगा. हाँ, so exactly. Yeah, 4 into 3 है. Oh, that's how it is. That is a shorter way, is it? Okay. Oh, it's 4 into 3. See, my maths is bad. Permutation and combination. Oh, I remember. This सब में क्लैट के लिए इतना पढ़ा था. हाँ, so you guys are more of an experts in this than me. So I will leave it to you guys, right? But one of the critical parts here is that maths, unlike other subjects over here, a lot of people just leave maths to zero. My strong suggestion to you would be that please do a couple of questions, 3-4 questions of maths. राइट तुम्हें इतना पढ़ाया मैथ्स, इतने टीचर्स ने इतने ट्रिक्स बताए हैं जो मुझे भी अब नो लॉन्गर याद है. बट या दिस कुड बी योर मोमेंट टू get at least 3-4 marks, and you don't know how important 3-4 marks are in AILET. So that is my suggestion. So I won't give you more advice on maths, seeing my level, but yeah, that is something. Now, how to prepare in the next few days? There are a few things which I have also written. So the first few advice that I have for you is that do not jump into the paper. You have to invest 2-3 minutes to understand the contours of the section. A big problem with people nowadays is that they just start with the first question itself. Okay, you don't have to do that. The second is that I've already given you the advice. Heavy sections you have to separate, right? Try and not do LA and English together because that will take it'll take up too much of your mental effort. So you can go something like English. I mean, for example, if I would have given it because of my strengths, English, GK, LA, maths, and then logical critical. That's how I would have done it. But again, it depends on how your previous papers have been, right? Maths, I've already told you, you have to attempt some maths. Even if you are weak, at least attempt 5 questions. You can't leave uh, half of it undone, like completely zero, not even have a chance to score. Of course, that does not mean कि अगर तुम्हें कुछ नहीं आता तो तुम random 5 mark करके आ जाओ. Negative फालतू लाने की जरूरत नहीं है. But yeah, then we've already spoken about this. Divide time for your sections. Once you are done with them, you move forward. LGK, modules, mock tests, past years. Very important. You will get LGK from your modules, you will get it from mock tests, and you will get from past year papers. Because LGK, as I told you, is more limited. That it is not less, but it is much more less than khula GK, जो entire GK. Law में comprehension or focus. Comprehension and focus. Two very important things. And you have to keep up your stamina. The concentration part, a lot of people cannot concentrate for the entire duration. That is where you come in. You have to, make sure that the entire paper, the first 10 questions are like the last 10 questions. GK के लिए भैया revision, question. English के लिए starting में please focus on questions based on grammar, figures of speech, etc. And then, try and attempt the longer answers. Okay. So, right. We are going to quickly just go through. These are the things that we've already spoken about, right? And we'll just quickly revise what we have done. So one, I hope you've done past 10 years AILET papers and all the mocks. I hope you've analyzed them properly. I hope you have, done your principal fact questions properly because they're easier than the multiple principal fact ones. I hope you've understood how important it is to comprehend the question before you can, go ahead and answer it, right? Then you have to solve as many RC passages as I said, practice as much as you can, do it from the book, do it from past year papers, do it from mocks. Revise key questions, especially on maths, logical, and GK from practice books everywhere you can. Because maths and all questions, even though the same numbers might not be repeated, the same concept might be repeated. Right? Revise some key questions from practice books across sections. And practice standard type questions in the English section. Yeah, that is another important thing, that these things can be practiced, like phrases, figures of speech, etc. You can still learn them at the end. वो बहुत लंबा नहीं है. Like if you don't know what is a figure of speech, you can find out. Achha, oh, that is the one, I didn't know it, and it could actually come in your paper. So that is something I suggest you take from your mock tests and past year papers to focus on. And as I was telling you, there are various roundup sessions ongoing. You do that, and yeah, you study, you do the mocks ka GK, and I think that should more or less cover what you can do at the last minute. These are the things you can do. Again, treat the exam as a compilation of 150 independent questions. See, हर क्वेश्चन का एक ही नंबर, चाहे आप उसको 10 मिनट लगाओ या चाहे आप उसको 10 सेकंड लगाओ, एंड दैट इज द इंपॉर्टेंट पार्ट. बहुत लोग इसे ईगो पे ले लेते हैं कि ये तो मैं लीगल सेक्शन का क्वेश्चन करके रहूंगा, है ना, वो आपको इतनी बार बताया नहीं करना है. एंड मे बी यू कैन इवन हैव अ सेटिंग फॉर टाइम, लाइक if a question takes more than x number of hours, right? If a question takes more than x number of hours, then you can, or x number of hours, x number of minutes, I'm saying. If it takes more than 5 minutes, then you can easily decide that, अगर 5 मिनट से ज्यादा लग रहा है तो I will leave it. We've told you don't overspend time. Second level of event detailing will help in GK. As I said, GK is about curiosity beyond the headline, right? That is what will help you. हाँ, मैथ्स का मैंने ऑलरेडी बता रखा है, 5 क्वेश्चन तो करके आने. Start with section with your highest accuracy. However, keep in mind that the heavier sections should be loaded towards the front when you still have mental stamina, right? ये देखो, यही है, 45 मिनट बाद खत्म हो जाता है आपका स्टैमिना. तो उसका एक ही रीजन है, जैसे मैराथन के लिए स्टैमिना कैसे बढ़ाते हैं, भाग भाग के, है ना. तो वैसे इसके लिए स्टैमिना कैसे बढ़ाते हैं? पेपर दे के, जितने पेपर दोगे उतना आपका स्टैमिना बढ़ेगा. Lengthy and shorter questions alternately, वही है example, but instead of mixing the questions, you can mix the sections, right? And ideal time spent is over here. So LA, anything between, anything below 30 minutes is very good. 25 to 30 minutes is good. Maths 20 minutes is good. English में 20 minutes is good. Maths में 6-7 minutes is good. That is if you want to get 4-5 number, right? Then reasoning 25 to 27 minutes. Again, it depends on how is your comprehension. The comprehension section often decides if you're left with time or not. LA, reasoning, and English can take up almost all of your time and not even leave you time for GK and maths if you are not careful. So that's that. हाँ. So yeah, इस टाइप की जगहों से क्वेश्चंस आते हैं बेसिकली, राइट? किसी ऐसे उससे कोई आर्टिकल्स है एटसेट्रा एटसेट्रा. सो आई होप तुमने न्यूज़पेपर पढ़ा है हर साल. नाउ करंट एलजीके के लिए जैसे मैंने तुम्हें बताया, इट इज रीडेबल. सुप्रीम कोर्ट केसेस, देयर बी अ समरी के क्या क्या इंपॉर्टेंट हुए हैं. Alright, Vanshika Kerry, she starts with English because it's your strongest area. Yes, Vanshika, it was for me too. So yeah, that's the spirit. All right. Then bills that are important, वो पता है अभी यूपी क्या हो सकता है यूपी पॉपुलेशन बिल वाला बहुत ज्यादा रिसेंट है, वो पेपर में ना आए, बट कह नहीं सकते. रीड अबाउट इट, मे बी उसके बारे में पहले कुछ आया होगा. Committees and commissions, you know already. All right, कि important committees and commissions हैं, and they are very important for you to know. Right. Then we have personalities. Again, IELET में ऐसे questions आते हैं, we know that. So I hope वो जो fact bites में जितने personalities वगैरह mention हुए हैं, उनको एटलीस्ट तुम याद करो. एटलीस्ट कुछ क्वेश्चन सही आ जाए. इफ दैट इज वीक, अगर वो स्ट्रॉन्ग है तो नथिंग लाइक इट. स्टैटिक एलजीके, लीगल मैक्सिम्स है ना, थोड़े से लैटिन वर्ड के रूट किसको पता है. वो वर्ड पार मेडिसी किसी ने किया है तो उसमें वर्ड रूट्स की बात होती है. तो अगर आपने थोड़े लैटिन वर्ड रूट सीख ले तो इट वुड बी वेरी इजी, मतलब नॉट वेरी इजी बट कंपैरेटिवली इजी फॉर यू टू आंसर. दैट इन कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन ऑफ इंडिया से क्वेश्चन आता है, ये गारंटी कुछ तो कॉन्स्टिट्यूशन से क्वेश्चन आएगा. देन स्टैटिक इन करंट एलजीके, there's a wide variety of questions out there कि भाई डिवोर्स मैटर के क्या बोलते हैं, अंडर which marriage can, under which law can somebody adopt a child, what kind of marriage is valid, not valid, important landmark judgments, copyright कहाँ होता है, patent कहाँ होता है, historic legislations कि भैया कौन सा एक्ट कब आया, right? So epidemics act for example I think 1898 का है या कब का है, 1878 god knows. So that's interesting, right? Then the sources that you can just see are, you must have heard of these online websites like Live Law, Bar and Bench, and if you're just normally on some social media website or any page following law, you will get to hear a lot of interesting cases, etc. Again, at your level, I don't think you have to read any cases, but just keep an eye out on important headlines and so on and so forth, right? So, who will ace it? Good test taking skills, logical thinker, voracious reader. ठीक है, all this is great, right? But sir, मैं ये तीनों नहीं. So how do I do it? I'll tell you what is going to win and what is going to make you, get through the paper very easily. The most important thing is calmness of mind, right? A lot of people get very tensed. So if you get tensed, you take more time in your paper. You take more time in questions, and you're not able to do it well, right? That is one problem. Second problem is obviously if you get tensed, you get things wrong. You take more time and you get things wrong. And third, you're not able to select the questions properly, right? As I told you, question selection is very important. You can't just do the first 100 questions. You have to do 150 में से वो questions 100 जो तुम्हारे best 100 questions. You don't have to do all 100 questions, all first 100 questions, right? So if you are calm, you will realize कि भाई बस 80 90 80 90 वाले क्वेश्चन सही करना है. You can get, even if you do 100 questions सही, you can afford to get wrong or leave the other 50, right? Even if you get some wrong from the other 50, you still come down to 90. Even if you get 85 90 questions correct and only 10 wrong or so, you will still ace or be very close to cracking the paper. All right. तो कोई सवाल जो भी है तुम प्लीज आराम से, you can put it on the chat. I can answer it if I'm able to help you. I will definitely answer it. it is a myth. AILET is more tough to crack because at the end, the top 55, top 60 people crack. See, one thing you have to understand about the entrance exam. Okay, let us say you get 145 out of 150. Okay, but 5,000 people are between 145 and 150. So your rank is 5,000. When you get into the college, जैसे हाईलाइट में तुम्हारा 145 to 150 आता है बट 5,000 और लोगों को 145 और 150 के बीच में आ रखा है. Will you get your college? The answer is what? So the answer is no. You won't get through to your college, right? But let's say you get a score of 44, but you are ranked 7, okay, and everybody else has gotten worse than. So it's not tough or easy. It's the same 55 tops. Those 70, 80 people are very similar in CLAT and IELTS, right? So it's just about calmness and focusing. Those are the things which are important. जितना आया है, जितना आता है उतना देखिए आप. देखो अब ज्यादा और ज्ञान देने की जरूरत नहीं है, साल भर किया है ना. Maybe you can brush up on GK, do a few concepts and all again, and do some comprehension practice and some data sufficiency and logical reasoning practice. But that's about it, right? Then Vaibhav is asking, please tell again how to prepare for vocabulary in English, Vaibhav. The first thing is, I would suggest if you haven't done so, that you do the first 8-10 chapters of this Word Power Made Easy. It's a red book, right? Lal Kitab hai. And I'm forgetting the name of the author, but it's very famous. And so you should do that. The other thing that you should do is the vocabulary exercises that are there that must be in your English section. I think you should really do that. And finally, I think you should go through past year papers and mocks and see what kind of vocabulary has been coming. Oh yeah, it's written by Norman Lewis, as someone has answered. So Vanshika said, I'm aiming for NLUD and CLAT is before IELET. I think I'll have more chance if I focus on IELET now, but this decision is worrisome. So Vanshika, my suggestion to you would be, don't mentally think you'll focus on one more over the other. Just think that you will do each question as it comes and you will do it with calmness, right? If you make all these plans and your body gets tense, you get tense, you feel, oh my God, मुझे तो ये paper निकालना है, but मैं CLAT अच्छे से करूँ. CLAT में then you become chill, I know this is not my main thing, right? The next one is my main thing. So do each question as it comes and you are likely to do very well. Any other questions? If there are no more questions, then we can end this session. Are you guys all on board? How to divide preparation time and strategy between the two exams. See, the preparation time you don't need to divide because preparation will remain the same, right? It's a similar kind of things that come. Like when you're studying GK, you don't think ना कि मैं science का नहीं पढ़ूंगी because वो IELTS में आता है क्योंकि मैं CLAT दे रही हूँ. You study GK as a whole. You study law as a whole. So the preparation time is common. The strategy is slightly different. And that is clear after you give mock tests. What happens is when you give mock tests, you figure out what is stronger and weaker in each paper. And you accordingly react. Right? So that would be my suggestion to you. That, just the strategy is different. And one of the key strategy differences is the tougher comprehension that comes and the lesser time that you have. That is the key difference. Ideal mock score right now, it should be above 75, 80, ideally. But if you're asking me ideal, it should be above 75, 80. But yeah, you can't say in a real paper, it's just about those 1.5 hours. Some people getting 80, 90 right now get crushed under the pressure ki sab sahi karna. Right? And somebody who are getting 20, 30, 40 also, just about those 90 minutes. Doesn't matter what you've done through the year. It's those 90 minutes. तुमसे कोई नहीं छीन सकता और सब वहां ही है बस तुम्हें सही ऑप्शन मार्क करना. But if you're calm, if you read if you're reasonably smart also and you're not prepared much, but you look at the question and you sort of get the answer, you can do it. It's not like unheard of. 85 लेके आ सकते हैं मतलब it's barely 60% of 50-55% लाने की बात हो रही है, right? So any other questions from me? So before I thank you, I will finish with questions if there are any. Right. Um, is that it? Have I discussed everything from my notepad? Right. Yeah. So I think we have covered almost all angles, right? And yeah, so I will turn it off in 3 4 minutes. If turn the video off in 3 4 minutes. Or some people are asking, how can I improve if I'm at 60 right now? See, the critical point over here is what? Critical point here is if you're at 60, you don't have to focus on what are the things you're getting right, but then focus on what are you getting wrong. Because for many people are just focusing on ये मेरा सही आता है. So if you start focusing on कि मेरे taught के इस type के question गलत ही होते हैं, if you just correct that concept, अच्छा मैं बार बार ये गलती करता हूँ, तो हो सकता है you'll get 2 3 marks extra. Like if you're always bad at deductions and comprehension, and then one day you just get it, अच्छा deduction मतलब जब वो ऐसा बोलता है तब ऐसा होना चाहिए, then you will get 2 3 marks more. You have to figure out what is going wrong. Increasing marks is not only about studying harder. It is about figuring what is going wrong and then correcting it. Because for people who are getting 60, let's say मेरा 5 पेपर से 60 60 आ रहा है, अरे भाई तो बाकी नंबर कहाँ जा रहे हैं? 90 नंबर, where are they going? This is where you need to focus on कि what I'm getting, that's great. What I'm not getting, why am I not getting it after a year of studying everything, right? Then Vaibhav Bharadwaj का question है, sir, how to read long principal fact questions in LA? One of the things you can do is you can save time on the principle. How? You should know the concept of theft, you should know the concept of consideration, so on and so forth in advance. So when you read it, you're just skimming through it just to see कि कुछ उल्टा तो नहीं है. बहुत बार ना प्रिंसिपल में ट्विस्ट होता है. There is a theft is so and so, but उसमें ऐसा ट्विस्ट होगा. But कुछ भी, but theft क्या उसको लास्ट में कुछ there'll be a sting in the tail. They will twist it in some manner. And you, because you just assume it is the normal definition of theft, you will just mark something. And then you'll go like, अरे यार ये तो लिखा ही नहीं था, मैंने mark कर दिया. So you should know the principles, the concepts well enough so that you can just skim through the principle, make sure हाँ ये वही है ना. That is what you need to do. Now somebody is asking that Vidisha is saying that I get around 75 in AILET mock, but I'm unable to fully attempt the logical section. But my suggestion for that would be, Vidisha, that one, you are at a good place comparatively, but you have to set aside time. All right, why is the logical section not happening? See, if even at this stage you can do 35 minutes, 20 questions only, and 15 you are being forced to leave, then do the 20 that you are best at. At least get 20 minutes, 18 instead of attempting everything and then getting wrong. Right? So Vaibhav ka question is again ki long principles. Vaibhav, yeah, we just discussed that. So right. Anything else? I'm available to answer if you can think of any question that is useful for yourself. No? Right. So I'm just looking at my cell phone to see if there are new chat messages. Right, guys. I hope you got a brief idea as to how to give this paper. There are a few things to keep in mind. The paper is based on comprehension, concepts, and concentration. And the paper is likely to be tougher on comprehension, right? And the GK is likely to have some static GK and that kind of things. The English is likely to be slightly different by having figures of speech and fill in the blank kind of questions. So long as you're prepared for them, so long as you're prepared to commit the correct amount of time to a section, you should be comfortable. because this paper allows you to attempt only 80, 85 questions, 100 questions, or maybe 105, 10 questions, and still, easily make it into the top 3, 4, 5, 10 ranks, right? So that is my suggestion for you. And best of luck for the paper, guys. Right? Do very well.